President's State of the Union speech tonight was a very different pacing than what he has had in previous State of the Union speeches with a lot of different proposals. This one seemed to be very reflective, where he focused a lot on legacy items and trying to cast a vision out for the future, saying what he has started, asking Americans to try to keep that in place. It almost came across as a campaign speech for the next president to try to keep Democrats in office, as he focused the last part of his speech on politics, really, and encouraged people to vote, and gave straw man illustrations, basically saying if Republicans are elected, they're going to unwind some of the things that I've done. He did focus on some things that I think are important as well, things like cancer, and trying to cure cancer is a very important initiative. They would have education policy and some of the bipartisan education reforms that we have done in Congress. He came back and encouraged on some of those, but many areas we disagree with. He talked about reducing the deficit, but ignored the fact that the debt has continued to skyrocket under his presidency. And he focused on many areas that I'd have very, very strong disagreement on. He talked about successes in Obamacare and how it's reduced the medical inflation in the country and the rate of that rise, when as Oklahomans we've seen a 35% increase in the cost of health care for next year, and many Oklahomans that have access to health care insurance now don't actually have access to health care, and they have a very difficult time using that insurance because the deductibles and the copays have gone up so fast. So he seemed to skim over some of those facts that are on the ground and major issues that we'll face in the days ahead that will only continue to get worse. So the real challenges came out on things like terrorism, where we talked about hunting down and taking out the terrorists. The problem is, I think most Americans, like when the president dealt with the economy, he talked about how great the economy is now and how it's grown so much. Most Americans don't feel that. Wages have continued to go down, and people struggle with that. I think there are a lot of people that struggle as the president talks tonight about the economy, and he talks about how great the economy is and how it's grown, but most Oklahomans don't feel that, as wages have continued to decline, as there's been all kinds of problems with employment. Many are in part-time jobs that want to be in full-time or want to be able to see a job transition, but just not able to do that. That same reality that we face in the economics, the president also seemed to allude to in terrorism as well, as he talked about how the advances were being made against ISIL, and all the advances are being made about terrorism, and even making a statement that the United States is more respected now than when he came into office. I don't know an Oklahoman that believes that. And the challenge that we really face is, as the president tries to articulate that, most people, most Americans don't feel that and don't feel more secure on it and see what's really happening worldwide in terrorism. Even to the president today talking about at this moment and what was happening in Iran, but leaving out the fact that at this moment we have 10 of our sailors that are being held by the Iranians right now. The president completely skipped over. He just talked about his nuclear deal, but didn't talk about all the provocative acts that are happening by Iran in the Middle East. So there seemed to be a disconnect somewhat, or maybe it's just the storyline of what he wants everyone to be able to understand. I wish that was actually true, with the facts on the ground don't actually bear that out. So there are a lot of situations that will have to be resolved in the days ahead, and that's what elections are for, and America will choose a new president in the days ahead. This president obviously is going to challenge people to try to continue the things that he has started, but for the vast majority of Oklahomans that I've interacted with, don't want to keep this same direction of the country and feel like the country is going in the wrong direction. So it's not a time to be able to push back on a single president. This is to be able to focus on a set of policies, and I think Americans don't believe this is the correct policy direction. So again, it's not personal for the president, but there are specific policy directions we do need to change as a nation, and to be able to focus on making sure we have opportunity for every single person to be able to rise out of poverty, and to make sure that we have an opportunity for every single person to be able to continue to advance an economy that's become more and more difficult to be able to succeed in. So we'll see in the days ahead as we work through the legislation in the next few months, and I look forward to seeing all the transitions that will happen in the next year.